The chandeliers of the grand mansion shimmered in the late afternoon light, casting golden reflections across marble floors imported from Italy. Outside, a line of luxury cars rested in perfect symmetry. Inside, silence ruled, too much silence. Adrian Velasco had built his empire from nothing. At just 35, he was one of the youngest tech magnates in the country, a name often compared to icons like Elon Musk for his daring investments and bold vision. But unlike the headlines that praised his wealth, Adrian valued one thing above all: his mother. Doña Isabella Velasco had raised him alone after his father passed away. She worked 2 jobs, skipped meals so he could eat, and never once complained. When Adrian finally made his first million, the first thing he did was buy her the mansion she once cleaned as a housekeeper decades ago. Now, she lived there as its queen. Or so he thought. That day, Adrian was supposed to be in New York closing a major deal. But the meeting wrapped up earlier than expected. Without informing anyone, not even his fiancée, he boarded his private jet and decided to surprise them both. His fiancée, Camilla Duarte, was beautiful, elegant, and came from a respectable family. At least that's what everyone believed. Adrian had proposed to her just 3 months ago in Paris, under the sparkling lights near the Eiffel Tower. The photos had gone viral. Their love story seemed perfect. But perfection often hides cracks. As Adrian entered the mansion quietly, he noticed something strange. The usual staff was nowhere to be seen. No soft music, no scent of fresh flowers. Instead, he heard something else. A sharp voice. "Eres inútil. I told you to stay in your room." Camilla's voice echoed through the hallway. Adrian froze. He followed the sound toward the living room. What he saw made his blood run cold. His elderly mother, fragile and trembling, was on the floor near the coffee table. A porcelain vase lay shattered beside her. Camilla stood above her, fury twisting her otherwise beautiful face. "You embarrassed me in front of my friends." Camilla snapped. "You don't belong here. This is my house now." And then it happened. Camilla lifted her foot and kicked Doña Isabella's side. It wasn't hard enough to cause severe injury, but it was deliberate. Cruel, humiliating. Adrian's heart pounded in his ears. For a second, he couldn't breathe. The woman he planned to marry. The woman he trusted. The woman who had promised to care for his mother like her own. His mother looked up, tears in her eyes, not from pain, but from betrayal. That's when Adrian stepped forward. "Camilla." His voice was calm, too calm. Camilla turned, her face draining of color. Adrian, you're supposed to be in New York." He walked slowly toward them, his expression unreadable. "Help her up," he said quietly. Camilla rushed to obey, but Isabella flinched at her touch. Adrian knelt beside his mother instead, gently helping her to the couch. He examined her arm carefully. "Are you hurt, Mama?" She shook her head. "No, Hio, it was an accident." But Adrian had seen everything. He stood up. The room felt colder. "An accident," he repeated, looking at Camilla. Camilla forced a nervous laugh. She slipped. "I was just trying to." Enough. One word, sharp as a blade. Camilla's confident posture crumbled. "You kicked her." Silence swallowed the room. I didn't mean. You said this is your house." Camilla's lips trembled. "Adrian, I was angry. She keeps interfering. She told my friends about when she used to clean houses. It was embarrassing. Embarrassing." Adrian's voice remained calm, but his eyes burned. "That woman cleaned houses so I could become who I am." Camilla tried to approach him. "Baby, please, let's not overreact." He stepped back. "Overreact?" He pulled out his phone. Camilla's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" Adrian pressed a button. Within seconds, 2 security guards entered the living room. Camilla looked around, panic rising. "Adrian, stop. We can talk about this." He faced the guards. "Escort Miss Duarte to the guest room. She will pack her belongings." "What?" Camilla gasped. "You can't be serious." Adrian turned to her, finally letting his anger show. "The wedding is cancelled." The words hit like thunder. "You're choosing her over me," Camilla shouted, pointing at Isabella. "No," Adrian replied coldly. "I'm choosing loyalty over betrayal." As the guards gently but firmly led Camilla away, she screamed, cried, begged. The perfect fiancé mask had shattered completely. Isabella grabbed Adrian's hand. "Hio, maybe she just needs time." Adrian knelt before her again, his voice softening. "Mama, anyone who disrespects you disrespects me." But what Camilla didn't know, what no one knew, was that Adrian's next move would shock not only her, but the entire city. And he was just getting started. Camilla barely slept that night. The guest room, once prepared for VIP visitors, felt like a prison. Her designer suitcases lay open across the silk sheets, half-packed in frustration. Every few minutes, she checked her phone, expecting a message from Adrian. Nothing. The silence was louder than any argument. Meanwhile, in the master suite across the mansion, Adrian sat beside his mother's bed. A private doctor had come to examine Isabella, ensuring there were no internal injuries. Thankfully, the kick had not caused serious harm, but emotionally, the damage lingered. "I don't want you to ruin your future because of me," Isabella whispered weakly. Adrian held her fragile hand. "You are my future, Mama." She looked at him with the same gentle eyes that once watched him struggle through homework at the kitchen table of their tiny apartment. "People make mistakes," he inhaled slowly. "Mistakes are accidents. Cruelty is a choice." Isabella said nothing more. By sunrise, Adrian had already made 3 phone calls. One to his legal team, one to his board of directors, and one to the press. The announcement. By mid-morning, cameras gathered outside Velasco Global headquarters. News outlets buzzed with speculation. The cancellation of one of the most anticipated weddings of the year was already trending. Many compared Adrian's rising fame to business giants like Jeff Bezos, a self-made billionaire with relentless discipline. But today, the headlines weren't about money. They were about scandal. Camilla arrived wearing oversized sunglasses, attempting to shield her identity, though it was pointless. The engagement ring still glittered on her finger, a silent reminder of what she was about to lose. Inside the conference hall, executives sat stiffly in leather chairs. The atmosphere felt heavier than any quarterly earnings meeting. Adrian entered precisely at 11 a.m. He did not look angry. He looked decisive. "Thank you for coming," he began. Reporters leaned forward. "Last night, I witnessed behavior in my home that goes against every value I stand for." Camilla shifted uncomfortably in the front row. "I built my company on principles of respect, resilience, and loyalty," Adrian continued. "Those values were taught to me by one person." The screen behind him lit up. A photograph appeared. A young Isabella in a janitor's uniform, holding a mop, smiling shyly at the camera. Murmurs filled the room. "She worked in this building over 25 years ago," Adrian said. "Cleaning these floors after everyone went home." Another photo appeared. Isabella sitting on a bus bench late at night, Adrian as a child asleep in her lap. She never complained, never demanded recognition. She just worked. Camilla's lips trembled. Adrian turned toward her, not with rage, but with clarity. "And yesterday, she was told she was embarrassing." A wave of discomfort moved through the audience. "Let me make something very clear," Adrian's voice strengthened. "There is nothing embarrassing about honest work." Applause broke out. Camilla stood suddenly. "Adrian, stop this. We can discuss this privately." He ignored her. Effective immediately, he announced, the Isabella Foundation will be established with an initial funding of $50 million. Gasps echoed. The foundation will provide legal aid, healthcare access, and financial literacy programs for domestic workers and single mothers. Reporters scribbled furiously. And, Adrian added, pausing deliberately, "All profits from our upcoming tech launch will contribute 5% annually to this foundation." The board members exchanged surprised looks, but no one objected. Camilla felt the room turning against her. "This is revenge," she whispered bitterly. Adrian looked at her calmly. "No, this is justice. The final decision." After the press conference, Adrian requested a private meeting with Camilla in his office. For the first time since the incident, they were alone. "You didn't have to destroy me publicly," Camilla said, tears finally falling. "Do you know what people are saying about me?" He leaned back in his chair. "I didn't mention your name. You didn't need to." Her voice cracked. "You chose her over me." Adrian's eyes softened, but only slightly. "She never made me choose." Silence lingered between them. "You know what hurts the most?" Camilla whispered. "I thought once we were married, things would change. That she wouldn't interfere." "Interfere," he repeated quietly. "She always reminded people where you came from. And that bothered you." Camilla hesitated. Adrian stood and walked to the window overlooking the city skyline. "When I was 12, he began, I told my mother that one day I'd buy her a house so big she'd never have to clean another one." He turned back toward Camilla. "She believed me." His voice lowered. "You were supposed to believe in her too." Camilla removed the engagement ring slowly and placed it on his desk. "So that's it. That's it." Security escorted her out, not roughly, but firmly. This time, she didn't scream. She knew there was nothing left to say. The aftermath. Within 48 hours, social media exploded. Some criticized Adrian for handling the matter publicly. Others praised him for standing by his mother. Influencers compared his loyalty to powerful family-centered figures like Michael Corleone, a man who would do anything to protect his family. But unlike the fictional mob boss, Adrian's weapon wasn't fear. It was principle. Donations to the Isabella Foundation poured in from across the country. Former domestic workers shared their stories online. Single mothers wrote letters thanking Adrian for recognizing their sacrifices. The mansion, now legally under Isabella's name, underwent subtle changes. Adrian insisted on renovating the ground floor, not for luxury, but for accessibility. Wider hallways, safety rails, a sunroom filled with plants she loved. One afternoon, weeks later, Adrian found his mother sitting in that sunroom. "You didn't have to do all this," she said gently. "Yes, I did." She studied him quietly. "Are you happy?" He considered the question. "I'm at peace." She smiled. "That's more important." A public invitation. Months passed. The Isabella Foundation held its first official gala event, not in a luxury hotel, but in the same building where Isabella once worked as a janitor. But this time, she entered through the front doors. Employees lined up, applauding as she walked in beside her son. Isabella wore a simple cream dress. No diamonds, no excessive glamour, just dignity. Adrian stepped to the podium. "My mother once told me that wealth means nothing if you forget who carried you when you couldn't walk alone." He paused, scanning the crowd. "Tonight isn't about me, it's about every woman who worked silently while the world overlooked her." Tears shimmered in Isabella's eyes. "And to anyone who believes kindness is weakness," Adrian added firmly, "let this foundation be proof that compassion builds stronger legacies than cruelty ever could." The applause lasted several minutes. Camilla's reality. Camilla, meanwhile, faced consequences she never anticipated. Invitations to elite social events stopped coming. Brands quietly distanced themselves. Friends who once admired her elegance avoided association with controversy. She tried to tell her version of the story, but public sympathy leaned heavily toward the elderly mother. One evening, scrolling through headlines, she saw a photo of Adrian and Isabella smiling together beneath a banner that read, "Honoring the women who built us." For the first time, she didn't feel anger. She felt regret, not because she lost wealth, but because she lost someone who valued loyalty above all. A private conversation. 1 year later, Adrian visited the modest neighborhood where he grew up. The old apartment building still stood, slightly worn but familiar. He parked his car and looked at the cracked pavement where he once played soccer. A neighbor recognized him. "You made it," the man said proudly. Adrian smiled. She made it. When he returned home that evening, Isabella was baking in the kitchen, despite having staff available. "You don't have to do that," he laughed. "I want to," she replied. "This house feels warmer when I cook." He hugged her from behind carefully. "I'm glad I came home early that day," he admitted quietly. She turned serious. "So am I, because if he hadn't, he might have married cruelty disguised as elegance. He might have ignored the quiet suffering happening under his own roof. He might have lost the one person who never once failed him." The true shock. People expected Adrian to react with rage, to shout, to humiliate Camilla aggressively. But what shocked everyone most wasn't his anger. It was his restraint. He didn't destroy her reputation with lies. He didn't seek revenge. He simply withdrew his future and redirected his wealth toward purpose. In a world obsessed with image, Adrian chose integrity. In a society that often hides mistreatment behind closed doors, he exposed it, not for drama, but for accountability. And in doing so, he reminded everyone of a simple truth. Success is not measured by the size of your mansion. It's measured by who you protect inside it. As the sun set over the city skyline, Adrian sat beside his mother on the balcony. "Are you proud of me?" he asked softly. Isabella squeezed his hand. "I was proud of you long before you were rich." And for Adrian Velasco, that was worth more than every empire he would ever build.